I was thinking about the historical division within not just members of the African diaspora, but Africans in particular. I mean, just African people, and that's in a Pan-African way. All of the members of diaspora, wherever you are, and starting with slavery over to the United States. And this is not just coming out of nowhere. This is also coming out of the W.E.B. Du Bois study. And particularly, the book is Thomas Aiello, The Battle for the Souls of Black Folk. Now, obviously, Souls of Black Folk is a book written by W.E.B. Du Bois. And this particular book is talking about the relationship between W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. In fact, the full name of the book is The Battle for Souls of Black Folk, W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, and the Debate That Shaped the Course of Civil Rights, Volume 3. This particular book got me going. I was in actually another book, Jacqueline Moore, Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and the Struggle for Racial Uplift. This is a 2003 publication. And in there, obviously they're talking about W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, and I highly recommend we pick up our study in Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois information, background, and history, because we will begin to see some things manifest before us that plays a part in a much larger picture. If we go to the beginning of the African diaspora, African people have had a problem with appreciating each other and the value of each other on a humanitarian level. Now, it's real quick for us to go in to talk about oppressive things that have happened, but I'm just focusing within our people. Slavery started because Africans were selling prisoners of war from battles that they had to the Portuguese. Now, Portuguese was sick enough to buy them, but that's not what we're talking about. It started with that natural desire within the African people to work against each other and devalue each other, and to look past the positive of each other. That we have ended up with some of these situations that we've seen today, in particular the Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois fight. But let's go a little further. Before Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, it was Martin Delany and Frederick Douglass. Booker T. Washington, I'm sorry, let me fix that. It was Frederick Douglass and Martin Delany. Then it was W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. Keep it going. Tupac Shakur, C. Dolores Tucker. Do you see how we can go through time and look at members of black leadership, President Obama and the guy that's over HUD now, how we work? There's always an antithesis to our leadership as opposed to a unification. And that antithesis can be orchestrated, exploited, or naturally exist within our group. It's either we're put against one another, or we'll naturally do it. Gentlemen, as brilliant as W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington could not see beyond their egos to see that both men had merit. See what happened? If you get into this book, particularly The Battle for Souls of Black Folk, W.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, by Thomas Aiello. W.E.B. Du Bois was like 10 or 12 years younger than Booker T. Washington, between 12 and 15, somewhere in there. Around the time Frederick Douglass died, Frederick Douglass was the man on black leadership. And when he passed away, that was when Booker T. Washington moved forward with his plan on how blacks could function within the system of American society. I'm trying to scroll through and see the name. It's not coming to me about the name that they gave his particular plan. And Du Bois disagreed. Booker T. Washington's plan basically was, we will function focusing on economic empowerment, staying segregated, and white people will see that the ideals that they have projected on us will be wrong, and they will accept us into society. Now, his banking was on the goodness in people, that white people were not purposefully making the decision that they were making fight for financial gain, that they didn't know any better. W.E.B. Du Bois felt white people knew better, and that they were using Booker T. Washington as a ploy to maintain the status quo, while they're knowing they would never change their position on us, that we would still be allowing them to maintain their position, so they would support him. And W.E.B. Du Bois spoke out against the compromise put forth by the Tuskegee machine, which was known as the power broking machine built by Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington had a lot of power. Booker T. Washington had the ability to control black appointment. He was the advisor to several presidents that were Republican. And he also had a great deal of influence over which black institutions received money. And he used that, Washington used that power to hold back anyone who disagreed with him. And I'm sure there's a good way to look at it. He looked at it as, I'm trying to do the best for my people, and a lot of things that he thought was good. Segregation is one of the worst things that's happened to the black community. It's just a fact if you look at it this way. We used to all be together, so we saw the best of our community. We saw the doctors, the lawyers, the architects, the plumbers, the technicians. We saw those people in our communities. When we segregated, desegregated. All those people moved out to live in better areas taught by everybody in America. It's places where minorities are not. So now we don't get to see the pillars of our community because they live outside our community. So he was right there. Booker T. Washington was also right about focusing on the money because slavery, racism, segregation, all that stuff is about money. It's not personal, it's business. Where he was wrong and where W.B. Du Bois was right was that money is number one to the Anglo-Saxon white male that established this country. To this country's power structure, it's about money. And they never have any intention of relinquishing any equality to minorities because they are relinquishing money. So if both of those men could have aligned their thought processes, just like Malcolm and Martin, as opposed to developing machines as to where Booker T. Washington had the Tuskegee machine and W.B. Du Bois had the Talented Tenth. And they fought against each other as opposed to fighting their enemy. We have to realize what is it that makes us quicker to fight each other? Because even before the imperialist European came into the lives of Africans, the system of slavery potentially existed because these prisoners of war were for sale. We have to think about that. Again, Battle for Black Souls of Black Folk. That is by Thomas Aiello and Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois, The Struggle for Racial Uplift, 2003 publication, Jacqueline Moore.